subject that's on my heart tonight is the subject of how we as children of God, that we're to be fighting against the devil. I know that sometimes as children of God, I remember one time as a boy that the church that I was a member of was having a good bit of trouble, and I, even a teenager, I was thinking, boy, if that much energy, because there was a lot of energy being spent, a lot of phone calls going on, a lot of backbiting, a lot of slandering, it was just a terrible situation. And I thought, if we fought that hard against the devil, if we fought against the devil as hard as we fight against each other, I believe we would have bigger victories over Satan in our lives. But we're going to be studying about us wrestling against the devil. I want all of you to know that the fighting that we do against Satan, that's not what gets us into eternal heaven. In Isaiah chapter 40, God said to his people, God said to Isaiah to tell his people, comfort ye my people, speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem, tell her that her warfare is accomplished. And when Jesus, that was a prophecy of the coming of Christ and him dying on the cross, there is a warfare that Jesus fought for us that we could not win. It was a battle that Jesus fought against the devil, and Jesus won that battle. And when he cried on the cross of Calvary, it is finished, he had defeated the devil, and he had given his life as a sacrifice for our sins. And so we have been redeemed by the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Amen. And the devil and all of his angels, all of his fighting, all his attempts to do whatever he desires or wants to do against us, all of those efforts are in vain eternally. At the same time, I want to tell you that if we as God's people, if we don't wrestle against the devil, if we don't fight against the devil can bring a tremendous amount of sorrow and pain in our lives. The devil is a liar and a murderer. Jesus makes that and many other statements about the devil. The devil's a liar and a murderer. He's out to destroy your life. He's out to destroy your family. He's out to destroy this church and every church. He's out to destroy the people of God. That's his purpose. When in the book of Job, when God asked Satan where he'd been, he said, from walking to and fro in the earth. Well, Peter in 1 Peter 5:8 says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, going to and fro throughout the earth, seeking whom he may what? Devour. Seeking whom he may devour. So the devil's after you. And by yourself, you cannot win the battle against the devil. The devil's stronger than you are. There are lots of times that the devil tempts the children of God who are strong and have felt the power of God working through them, and they have been victorious over the devil. They sometimes get overconfident in the victories that they have experienced, and they think that they can handle the devil, and then they begin to yield to a little here and a little there, and they gradually begin to give in to the devil. They don't realize what they're doing. They just think they can turn back anytime they want to. As we begin to go away from God, and as we begin to follow the devil, we're going down a path of destruction. So we need to wrestle against the devil. The devil is our enemy. We need to fight against him. So we're to wrestle, and we'll be looking at a scripture there in just a moment, talks about us wrestling. But we're also to be warriors. We're to be soldiers of Jesus Christ. God has called us to be a soldier. Let's look at those two verses first, and then we'll proceed. Let's begin by looking at wrestling. If you will, turn in your Bibles to Ephesians chapter 6. Ephesians chapter 6. Listen please to verses 10 through 13. Ephesians chapter 6. We're talking about right here, we're talking about us wrestling against the devil. Tell me anything, any of the important rules of wrestling, anything about wrestling that helps you get the pin. Okay, one of the first things now he's saying is about wrestling is you don't ever let your opponent, you don't ever let the one you're wrestling against, don't ever let them get out of your eyesight. Keep them in front of you at all times. Don't let them get behind you where they can attack you and you don't see them coming. All right. What else helps you in wrestling? All right. Wrestlers are taught how to identify weaknesses in their opponents. And so when you're wrestling someone, you're looking for the weakness in that opponent, and every time you see that weakness, then you're going to zero in on that. That's going to be where you attack over and over, is wherever the weakness is. Isn't that the way the devil does with us? Doesn't he keep us in his sight as much as he can? And doesn't he try to stay in front of us and hinder us? And doesn't he also try to look for our weaknesses and attack whatever our weaknesses are? So in Ephesians chapter 6, beginning in verse 10, we're thinking about us wrestling against the devil. One of the young people volunteered to read 10 through 13. Listen carefully, everyone, to Ephesians 6, verses 10 through 13.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord, and with the power of his might, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. All right,
now, actually what Paul's going to do here is both things that I've just mentioned. He's going to mention being a soldier and putting on the armor so that you can be a good soldier. You wouldn't wear all this stuff that he's putting on. He's talking about being a good soldier, and he's talking about wrestling. So when he's talking about putting on the armor, he's talking about being a good soldier. And as a good soldier, even though a wrestler would not wear all the things we're talking about here, a child of God, these are spiritual things, and we do need to put on the whole armor of God, even to wrestle against the devil. All right, go ahead, read verse 11 again.
Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood.
All right, stop right there just a minute. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. What does that mean?
Spiritual fight.
Okay, it's a spiritual battle. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. What else does it mean besides the fact that it is a spiritual battle? Okay, it's not people that we're fighting against. Now the devil may be working through people, and we're going to stand against people also, but always remember that it's the devil that we're fighting against. We're not fighting against the people. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against, go ahead.
But against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand.
Okay? So we wrestle and we fight against the devil. We have to put on the whole armor of God if we're going to be able to withstand all the fiery darts of the devil. So just tell me in your own words. Give me any example of the devil trying to wrestle with you. Give me any example of temptations that the devil puts in your pathway. Any way the devil tries to destroy your life. What are some of the devious, the Bible says in the Corinthian letter, we are not ignorant of his devices. The devious, I wrote an article one time for the Trumpet, the devious devices of the devil. What are some of the devices of the devil? Okay, a lot of times the devil will have us to think about something that somebody's done against us. Of course, we wouldn't dare tell anybody what it is because it's so minor. That's been a common thread that's always been present when people are having conflicts. They want to talk about somebody, they'll blow it out of proportion, but then they don't want to actually address the person and the problem, because whatever it was so much smaller than what it actually was pretending to be. So one of the ways the devil attacks us is to get us to think, to look at small problems that other people have and concentrate on their problem, their sin, their problem. And he used all three of those. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. He used that in the Garden of Eden against Eve. It was the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. He used it against David with Bathsheba, lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, pride of life. He used it against all of God's children have always been tempted by the devil with the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. How many of you have ever heard it doesn't hurt to look? It doesn't hurt to look. Let me tell everybody here, it does hurt to look. It can hurt to look. And let me caution you, if you're in a tight financial situation where there's something you can't afford, something you cannot afford, don't go looking at those things. If you can't afford a new car, don't go looking at new cars. You're just putting your foot in a bear trap when you go looking at things that you can't afford. That's a common problem that people have, and it's a common way the devil tempts people, is it won't hurt to go look. Let's just go have an evening of looking. We'll just go from car lot to car lot. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's what the devil would have you to do. If you can't afford something, don't go looking. Okay? And if you think you might not can afford it, get somebody with wisdom to help you realize, no, you can't afford it. Okay? What's another way the devil tempts us? Okay, he tempts us to fear men, to fear what the outcome's going to be if we do what God tells us to do. Probably fear is one of the main ways the devil tempts the people of God. It's what kept the children of Israel out of the land of Canaan. It's what has kept many of the saints of God from standing up for the truth, is because of fear of what men will say to us or about us. So that fear is something that we need to understand is one of the tools of the devil to keep you from doing what's right. Gain, money, probably the love of money. The scripture says the love of money is the root of all evil. And loving money and loving the things that money can buy, loving things and loving money, wanting more. The Word of God says the flesh continues to cry, more. And the flesh cannot be satisfied. So no matter how much you get, you'll never be satisfied. Anybody that says, I just want to be a millionaire, there's never been anyone yet that got to be have $1 million that said, now I've got enough. Never has happened. And whatever goal you have in your mind to get to some point, that becomes a God in your life. And money becomes your God. And things become your God. So please be careful about going after money and the things of this world. Go with me to 1 Timothy chapter 6. 1 Timothy chapter 6. Timothy chapter 6 verse 6 says, godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and certain we can carry nothing out. Having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. They that will be rich fall into temptation. Everybody see that? Now come down to verse 12. Fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on eternal life. Fight the good fight of faith. What is the good fight? It's a fight where we have to exercise our faith, but what is the good fight? Are there bad fights? Does this indicate there are fights that are not good? Fight the good fight. Well, tell me, first of all, I'll give you the converse of that. Tell me some bad fights. Okay, fighting against God. That's a common problem. Fighting against God. Fighting against God, fighting against God's Word, that's a bad fight, and you'll never win that battle. So don't ever fight against God. Give me another example of a bad fight. Us fighting against each other. Christians fighting against each other. That's a bad fight. And now a good fight is when you're fighting against the devil. When you're wrestling and you're being a good soldier and you're fighting the good fight of faith. Remember, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. That's 1 John chapter 4 and verse 4. If you're fighting these fights that we're talking about, doesn't matter what the particular temptation is, if you're fighting those fights in your own strength, you will not win. You will lose the battle. But when you're fighting the good fight of faith, when you're wrestling against these principalities and powers and the rulers of darkness, and you're wrestling against the devil and his angels, when you're wrestling and fighting against the devil, it's imperative that you always know that it's only through Christ that dwells in you that you can win that battle. There's power in you in Christ. But if you get away from Christ, or you don't look to Christ, you don't depend on Christ, and you start fighting that battle yourself, you're going to lose the battle. So remember, it's Christ in us that enables us to win the battle against Satan. Fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on eternal life. Go to 2 Timothy just a moment. 2 Timothy chapter 2. Listen please to verse 3. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 3. Okay, so he calls us here a good soldier of Jesus Christ. In order to be a good soldier of Jesus Christ, you have to put on the whole armor of God. You have to remember it's Christ in you that's going to give you the victory. You have to endure hardness as a good soldier. Do we have fights to fight, every one of us, every day? Do we have different fights? Things that are hard for me might not be a problem to you, and things that are a problem for you may not be a problem for me. But everybody here has some weakness that the devil is trying to attack your life and destroy your life with that. So he says here, thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier. And then he says in verse 4, 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 4, he says, no man that warreth, what are we talking about? Warriors, wrestlers. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. Who chose you to be a soldier? Jesus did. And if you get entangled in the affairs of this life, you cannot please Jesus Christ, who has called you to be a soldier. A lot of other scriptures about what would you say is the most effective tool against the devil? What do you think is the most effective tool against the devil?
The Word of God.
The Word of God. I think that's, without a doubt, the most effective tool that you can use against the devil. I hope that God will help every one of us tonight as we leave, that we would, first of all, recognize the devil's after us. The devil wants you. The devil wants to defeat you and destroy your life and your family. And that God will help us to equip ourselves with the things that we need to be able to be victorious over the devil, that we will not yield to the devil. That God will help us to be good wrestlers and good warriors.